Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can use Fluid Designer for 3D printing to create this 4-leaf Celtic knot pattern earring and personalise it by putting the Harrington font letter A on the bottom. So if we go to Fluid Designer for 3D printing, first of all I'm going to click on Group Library here. That just refreshes this folder list. And because we're going to make an earring in this particular video, we're going to use this wire connector with a 1.5mm diameter hole. If you wanted to make a pendant, you could just use the one with the 2.5mm diameter hole. I'm also going to use a Harrington font, and as you can see there's all the letters of the alphabet there. I'm going to use this capital letter A Harrington font, and we're going to make an earring. So if I just go to the earrings folder, and we're going to make a Celtic knot earring. Now if you buy the Celtic patterns from us, there are a number of different Celtic knot patterns that you can use. 4-leaf ones, 5-leaf, 6-leaf, 3-leaf. I'm going to use this 4-leaf pattern here, so if I just drag and drop that onto the workspace, and I'll just switch on screencast key, so any key presses I make should be displayed down here. Now this object is kind of pre-built in a way for you if you get our Celtic knot patterns, and you can change the columns of this and make different patterns, change the offset, or you can change the rows, and what we want to do in this instance is just to make an earring. And obviously we've got to be a bit careful with the weight in making an earring. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a count of 2, and I'm going to offset it by that value there, 0.8. So that's essentially all you need to do to actually create the main body of the earring. But because we want to keep the weight down, I'm actually going to change the thickness of this. At the moment it's got a cross-section diameter, it's rounded 1mm. I'm going to change it to a square cross-section of 0.8, so that just reduces the weight of the object. So that's how easy it is to change the thickness. So if you wanted to make a pendant, for example, you could do it 1/2. I'm going to stick to 0.8 by 0.8. Now what I want to do is to add the Harrington font to personalise this. So if I go to File and Append, and what we do in Fluid Designer, we just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder, and I'm looking for Harrington fonts, and I want the capital letter A, I want the object, and I want to append that from the library. And just click on it to make sure it's selected. Now it's a little bit bigger than I want, so what I'm going to do is to scale that down. So I can do that in Fluid Designer by S on the keyboard for scale, and I'm going to type 0.7, so that's about 70% of the original size, and then enter. Now you must be careful whenever you do that in Fluid Designer when you're scaling curves, which is what this is. To keep this cross section correct, you must always immediately do Control A and apply the scale, and notice when I do that the cross section resets to the value over here. If you forget to do that, you won't know exactly what the depth of this object is. Now we want to change it to the same thickness as this, so I'm going to click in here and to change it to 0.8 by 0.8, and I'll just go to top view again, and I'll perhaps just move it up slightly so that it's overlapping properly at the bottom there. Now I want to put a ring at the top, and as I showed you before, that's in the 3D templates connectors folder. So I want this one here with the 1.5mm diameter hole. So if I go to File and Append, just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder. The ring is in 3D templates connectors. I want the wire connector with a 1.5mm diameter hole, so I can just append that from the library. And click on it to make sure it's selected. That's when you see the yellow around the outside. And if I just zoom in now, that's just a little bit too long, so if I just press the tab key to go into edit mode, I can highlight the control point at the very bottom there, press X on the keyboard and delete that vertices, delete that control point. Now as you can see, it's sticking out a bit at the moment. That's because the cross section is 1mm rounded. If I change it to 0.8 by 0.8, which is what the rest of the earring is like, that'll be fine. Now, quite often when working with Fluid Designer, we would join all these objects together, but if you do that in this case, you'll end up with 2 letter A's and 2 rings at the top. And the reason for that is because we've got some modifiers here, creating these 2 copies. So rather than join them at this stage, what you must do is go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert that to a mesh. That applies the modifiers. So the modifiers disappear now, so you can't change this anymore. And if you go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert the ring at the top to a mesh, and Tools, Object Tools, and convert the letter A to a mesh. Now if you hold down the Shift key and highlight all 3 objects, so that's the letter A, the Celtic knot pattern, and the ring at the top, you can then go to Tools, Object Tools, and join them together. So that's how you join them together, because this was using a modifier. And that's it essentially. We've now got our 4-leaf Celtic knot earring. We've got a thickness of 0.8, which will keep the volume down. So all we need to do now is to export it. I usually use the Wavefront OBJ format. I called it, and I save it to the desktop, I called it a personalised Celtic knot earring with 4-leaf, so I exported that. And what you must do is then go to Netfab Basic and just run the repair procedure in Netfab Basic. Obviously I did do this a few minutes ago with the previous version, but I assure you it does work. And you just apply the repair and remove the old part. And that will fix the mesh, and what you'll notice in Netfab is the volume 0.14. That equates to about 1.5 grams, so that's the weight of this earring. And that's it. That's how easy it is in Fluid Designer for 3D printing. Thank you.